My name is Lawrence. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Tier Mobility. Before I want to share my experiences of running the fastest growing mobility company in the world, I want to give you some background of my story. So, my purpose in life is to build sustainable businesses to disrupt industries in a sustainable world. I was about 9 years old when I took the returns of my dad's warehouse, and I was taking them and I was reselling them on the flea market because I saw value in those products. I did this until I was 16, and with 16 I co-founded a company called Directeur because second-hand games at this time were very exciting for a 16-year-old kid, and the company grew to the biggest platform for pre-owned video games. Then I watched An Inconvenient Truth by Al Gore. He was talking about how we can fight climate change if we are respecting resources and making sure that we are not buying everything new. So I co-founded a company called Rebuy, which is the biggest platform in Europe for second-hand electronics. We gave over 100 million products a second life through repair and refurbishment. Then I was taking a trip after doing second-hand products for over 20 years, and I was traveling around the world, and I wanted to see what's out there in the world regarding climate change. We all live in a place where when it's hot weather in Central Europe, we go to the beach, we go to a pool, or we turn on the air condition. But if we are traveling, or if you're living in places in South America, you get really hit by climate change. So at the end of my trip, which was about 1.5 years ago, I decided to turn my face into the biggest emissioner of carbon dioxide, which is the transportation sector. Our mission of the company Tier Mobility is that we are changing mobility for good. We started the company in July last year. We started operations in October in Vienna last year. And within 1 year, we created the fastest growing mobility company in the world. Just a few facts. So we did over 14 million rides. We launched 50 cities. We have about 23,000 scooters on the street. We are 350 employees, and we're profitable in core markets. We also raised a lot of money as some other scooter companies, and we also have French investors who are backing us. But I don't want to talk how great we are because everybody's talking about themselves. I really want to share what my experience is of running this company and making sure what a city can really expect from a micromobility company operating in their city. So, what do I think is changing mobility for good in general? I think there are 4 pillars what the city needs to get from an operator in their city. So the operator needs to be collaborative, it needs to be safe, it needs to be organized, and it needs to be sustainable. What does it mean? If we talk about the first pillar, collaborative. A city can expect that the operators have to obey the rules. No scooter company, no micromobility company should enter a city without asking for permission. They should get the permission to understand that we cannot operate in a city and putting really a lot of scooters on the street because it needs a staging, as we have seen in Paris. Second thing is, the operators have to also provide feedback. I mean, if we're transforming the industry, we really have to work together. We all have the same mission. I mean, cars are not the future of our cities. They are spending a lot of emissions that we don't want in our lungs, in our environment, and additionally, we're using it only 5% of the time. So 85% of the time, it's not being used. So that means, if we're collaborating with the cities, we also have to give money back to the city. So if the city is providing infrastructure, is creating biking lanes, then we also have the duty to give a percentage of our revenues to the city. The next point is safety. This should be on every company's #1 priority. So in Germany, my experience is when we put the regulation in place, we worked really closely with the government, and Germany decided not every scooter can operate on German streets. There was a big evaluation of which scooter can operate. They need to be safe in terms of braking power, in terms of usage, durability. We even had to have a license plate. You can see it's quite German. Yeah? And I think if you're not giving great hardware to the people in the city, you cannot expect that you not have accidents. So it's really important to have great hardware, #1. Second, we have to motivate people to care about safety, not only for themselves, but also for the people who are within the city, who are the pedestrian, an example. Third thing is every rider should be insured. This is a must, I think. So for themselves, but also third-party liability. And the fourth point is, yes, speed needs to be regulated. I think this is clear. But also, the fleet needs to be well maintained. So we have seen in the US, scooters are dying on the street because they're not maintained, because they're not picked up for charging and for repairing and refurbishment. Yeah? So this is safety. What does organized means? So we have seen in Paris, I mean, you live in the city, I live in Berlin, and I think we don't want scooters or micro-mobility vehicles cluttering the city. We want to have it organized. And that's why I think it's the right way to do is to have organized parking, which is mandatory. So you cannot park a scooter everywhere. And I know that Paris is planning 2,500 parking lots, and I think this is the right thing to do. And this is probably the role model for all other European cities. And then comes a very important point about this. When I started this business, there was only American companies having a gig working model. So random people were taking the scooters from the street, bringing it to their home, charging it at their home, and then bringing it back to the street. I think this is not a reliable partnership that you have. I think this is not sustainable for family life if you charge your scooter at in your living room or in your bedroom. And I really think that every company should have professional people who are taking care of the vehicles every day, maintaining them, repairing them, and taking them back to a warehouse. Yeah? Sustainable. This is my favorite part. So what are the most important things about sustainability? So I know that a lot of people in this room probably think, oh, those scooters, they're not sustainable. They're only lasting a month, maybe 2 months, maybe 3 months. But we have proven that you can actually run this business with hardware that can last more than 18 months. And how is this possible? It's possible because we really take care of those scooters. So in my former life, as I described, I gave over 100 million electronics a second life. And it's just the technology and the ambition that you don't want to lose a scooter. And there's every part of a scooter you can repair, every part. But it's a lot of effort. And I think it needs to be done by everyone in this industry to take care of the hardware, to repair the hardware, that the hardware is going to last not a couple of months. It should actually be lasting years. We just rolled out a new scooter that has swappable batteries that have a lot of advantages. And then the question was, what do we do with the old scooter? We are only in the market for 12 months operating. And we said we don't want to throw them away after 12 months. So that's why we actually created a new brand and created a repair service and a refurbishment service that we repaired all the old scooters, rebranded them, and then we actually reselling them to people who are not living in the city. I mean, there's many people that are living on the countryside, in the suburbs, they don't have access to green mobility. And they can buy the scooter, ride from their home to a local train station, take themselves to the city, work, and come back. So that's like an end-to-end thought-through supply chain of the lifetime of scooters. Also, I think currently in Germany, we are discussing that scooters should only have swappable batteries. I don't think it's the right way that you are driving with a van into the city from a warehouse which is outside of the city of like Paris. You are actually contributing to the traffic jam in the city, collect the scooters, and then drive all the way back to the warehouse outside of the city. And the future, and we just released it, is that every operator should have minimal causing of traffic jam. That means that swappable batteries, you can actually swap the batteries on the street, make a maintenance check on the street, and you don't have to drive with a van back and forth through the city. But we as a company think providers need to go further. So there are the emissions of a scooter ride is actually the amount of energy that you need to charge the scooters. There are emissions that you actually need to transport the vehicles. But I think we as a company and as a sustainable company, and we really want to change the mobility sector to a greener mobility, we actually also should think about the emission that we have in our headquarters, like people travel, and I think there's actually a more amount of emissions that we should look at. But the biggest amount of emission that a micromobility company has, and it refers to every company out there in the world, is the production and the transport of vehicles. So we calculated that we have around 90,000 tons of CO2 emitted when we produce the scooters in China and transport them to Europe. And we said, we don't like that. We actually really want to be the first company that's carbon neutral. And we decided it last week, and by January 2020, not like 2025 or 2030, we will be the first company in the mobility sector that's carbon neutral. We are offsetting 90,000 tons of carbon emissions by saving 25,000 fields, football fields in the rainforest. And my ambition is that all other companies in the sector should also think about this. And I don't want to be the only company who's doing this. I want to motivate all providers in the mobility space to be carbon neutral, as we are leading and transforming our cities to a greener one, because we don't want to have carbon emissions in cars in our city. Thank you for listening.